What is the worst thing someone you care about has ever done to you? We were naive as teens, both of us. We talked on the internet for a few days before meeting in the park across the street from my house. We got to know each other by talking about who we were one day. We were going out in 2 weeks. We were very close and have many happy and beautiful memories of our time together. I loved her so much that I thought we'd be together forever, even after what happened. Her folks gave her a lot of trouble as a way to pay for his drinking problem. Her stupid father was never around and stole money from her mother. Her mother used drugs and didn't care about any of her 3 kids. She made money by selling drugs. It wasn't just word of mouth either. Even though I saw everything happen, I didn't know about it when I met her for the first time. At first look, she seemed like a nice girl who didn't know much about the world outside her home. Before we started dating, she never told me about anything. As a child, I had a violent father who did many bad things to our family. Because of this, my mom and I had to leave Mississippi and move to Australia. In this way, I could understand what she was going through. As I learned more about her, I thought I might be able to help her get away from her bad home life. I thought that wanting to help her with her problems was a way for me to fix myself, which made me want to be with her even more. She began to ask me to watch movies at her house. I'd have her over to share stories and take her to the park to get away from her home life. It was fun to hug and kiss each other a lot. We started to get more and more serious over time. This was fun for me because I had never been with a girl like that before. It made us closer. This kept going on, and we kept seeing each other this way for a few months. Since she was also a virgin, neither of us knew what we were doing, which made it even more exciting. We gave each other gifts on Valentine's Day. Then we both agreed that we were ready to lose our virginity to each other, so we left her house together. Things were going really well. My new life in Australia, away from my dad, is great. I got a job and did well in school. I felt good. Then my girlfriend's dad came back one day. He stayed after he got back. I got a private message from her telling me how scared she was for him to come back. I remember when we met for the first time. He was very thin and pale, and his long, wavy, dirty hair felt gross. He welcomed me with a handshake and a smile. He turned out to be just as bad as my dad. After a few months, my girlfriend showed up crying in front of my house. As she cried on my shoulder, I ran outside and held her. She told me that he finally hit her. That's like she was ready for it the whole time. I was very angry. It was like someone turned on a light bulb when she changed after that. She seemed to change into a completely different person. She started to listen to darker and heavier music, felt worse, quit going to school, and wanted to be close to someone more. She didn't come over to my house one morning so that we could go to school. I was going to go by myself, but I had a feeling I should go to her house instead, even though it would make me late for class. When I arrived at her house, her mother met me at the door and led me to her room. In her poorly lit room, she was lying there asleep under the sheets. I could tell she was broken, even though she looked calm and quiet. I was going to wake her up, but when I saw her, I changed my mind and chose to stay in bed with her instead. When I put my arms around her, she grabbed my hand and kissed it. She had been awake for a while. I felt so sorry for her. It was funny how happy she was all the time, but she was the quietest I've ever seen her. After 8 minutes of lying there, I woke her up and told her it was time to go to school. She groaned and told me she didn't want to go. Instead, she planned to stay home and cry all day. She finally agreed with me and got up when I told her that school was better than this old house. After some time, we went on a date to the park. We were talking while lying on the ground and looking up at the trees. All of a sudden, she jumped on top of me, straddled me, and looked at me with a flirty look in her eyes. I looked at her again, not sure what to think, and I remember matching her look when it clicked. I saw that the girl I had met 6 months before was not the same one I was seeing. Her father hitting her had changed her so much that she was no longer herself. Her plan was to have fun in the park, which is not something she usually does. I could tell she was hurting inside. Broken, need to find a way to deal with it. I knew that what she wanted was bad for her. I said no, and we left after packing our things. I walked her home, and she let me stay for a while. As soon as we walked into her room, she slammed the door shut and pushed me onto the bed. I thought she was kidding when she climbed on top of me, so I laughed. It wasn't a big deal until she started taking my pants off. I told her to wait and pushed her off. It was clear that this time was different from the others we had done it. She didn't want to do it because she loved him, but because it hurt. It was clear she was in pain because she was pleading for help. This was how she was dealing with it. I told her no and walked out the door because I knew it wasn't good for us. She put me back on the bed and jumped on top of me. She told me, if you love me, you'll let me do this. Then she took my pants off. I stopped her again right away because I thought that sounded crazy. Wow, don't go any further. I'm running late, so we can't do this now. Still, she kept going. When I pushed her off of me again, she yelled, wait a minute. I'm so stressed out. I need this. Do not be so hard to deal with. She finally got to me again, so I let her have her way. I had nothing else to do. I was so ashamed and helpless. I didn't say anything or look her in the eye the whole time. I only told my best friend about it, and she told me it wasn't good and was saved. Yes, I am a guy who was saved by a girl. I haven't told anyone else about this since then. My parents don't know about it, and I don't think they believe me either. As a guy, I felt terrible about what I did because guys don't let things like that happen to them. Plus, it was someone I loved and trusted. After that, we never got close again. After a few weeks, she started staying at my house. Because she told the cops about her dad, she couldn't be with him for 2 weeks. She told me about the guy she was seeing on the way home. I should not have laughed with her about Peter and suggested that she buy him a drink. She yelled at me the whole way home, begging me to trust her more and not think she was cheating on me with him. I said I was sorry. She talked to him more and more and more over the next 2 weeks. She began talking on the phone with him until 3 a.m. When I went into the living room to talk to her or give her a kiss on the cheek, she always asked to be left alone. Initially, I didn't give it any thought until she began hanging out with him, at which point I had a creepy feeling. Whenever I asked her, she always said, "Trust me more, do you trust me?" We had never fought before. Then I'd say sorry and feel bad that I had asked her about it in the first place. I was scared when the fights got worse. It was late at night and I went to talk to her about her day. She kept talking about Peter and how great he was. That's why I asked, "Is there anything about your day that doesn't matter?" She screamed at me like she had never done before as she dragged me into the kitchen. Because I kept seeing my dad, I felt like he was yelling at me the whole time. I knew this wasn't the girl I first fell in love with, different from what you expected. I felt like I hadn't done enough to help her, be there for her, and back her up. I did everything I could, and she was now dead inside. I really felt like I was going to die when I looked at her face and heard her yelling at me. The next day on our way home from school, we came up to my front door. I stopped us, then turned around and talked to her. Something I told her wasn't right was being done to me. I let her know how I felt and that I wanted things to work out. I was sick of being lied to. After that, she turned around and left. After 30 minutes, she came back and told me she was leaving to stay somewhere else. She told me that I was just like her dad and that she couldn't be around me anymore because I scared her. You should know where she stayed. That's right, Peters. In the end, she broke up with me. It was funny how I felt both terrible and free at the same time. I hurt myself so badly that I destroyed myself. When she told me, I went into my shed and punched a punching bag with my bare hands. That was the first time I had ever lost it. When I was in pain and got angry, I punched the bag hard. Then they kept hitting and wouldn't stop. I would grunt louder and louder with each hit until I was yelling and then crying. The more I punched, the more blood started to run down my arms. After 5 minutes, I broke down on the floor and started crying while holding the bag to my face. That's where my mom and stepdad found me. I had never done that before in my whole life. For a few months, I had bandages on both hands. Our relationship didn't grow again for a long time after that. After a while, my ex-girlfriend told me that she had been cheating on me with Peter, but they were no longer talking to each other. Then I told her I got it because I knew she was in pain, and she agreed. That's when we decided to get back together once we were better. I became hopeful and thought that she might be able to get back to being herself. I'm so stupid. We chatted back and forth, and my mom told me to wait because something didn't seem right with her. I let her heal while we talked and became friends. At one point, she told me straight out that she had been seeing someone else. After she said she was sorry, I woke up and knew something was wrong. We stopped talking to each other after I cut her out of my life. She told her friends that I would hit her or yell at her behind my back. I didn't understand. This woman said those mean things about me, even though I loved and admired her a lot. Once I had a new girlfriend, her friends would follow me home from school, which made things worse. Then she texted me one day that she didn't want me to see my new girlfriend anymore. When I told her that we both have our own lives, she said she would kill me. We didn't talk to each other again after that, and we still don't. I sent her a letter not long ago telling her I forgive her for everything she did to me, but she never responded or even brought it up. I'm 18 years old now, and I'm almost done with high school. I've been single for a year now. After being broken up with my first girlfriend, I couldn't get back together with my second one. It's been 15 months since I last talked about this. Everything that happened still makes me feel bad.